Ladies and gentlemen, James Gunn Superman is the gift that keeps on giving, especially when it comes to simultaneously fueling outrage as well as inspiring forced praise on social media. It's become very clear to me that nobody can be normal about this movie, and that's a big reason why a massive DC fan like myself has all but checked out of anything DC related in the future. It's absolutely exhausting listening to the online discourse about every single piece of information that comes out about this movie. And if you take into consideration we get what seems to be daily updates about it from the director, needless to say, I'm already burnt out on a movie that doesn't come out for over a year. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So I said I would only talk about this movie if something major happens, and for the most part I've kept my promise. But now we have set photos that give us a little bit better look at James Gunn's interpretation of the iconic Superman suit. After the initial lackluster reaction to the reveal, this was inevitable. And if you ask me right now if these set photos have changed my mind at all in regards to how I feel about this suit, the answer would be absolutely not.
Not impressed.
But let me explain. As I've stated many times, I'm pretty much burnt out on DC content and comic book movies in general. So I'd be lying if I said that didn't play into how I feel about this movie overall. It's pretty simple, actually. I mostly do not care because they have not given me a reason to care. I'm not the type to blindly follow and support something just because it's a brand name that I once had a lot of love for. WB and DC are simply moving in a direction that I'm not personally interested in as a fan. Now, they had a chance to set themselves apart. But with every passing day and every new piece of information that comes out about Superman or the new DCU, all it looks like more and more is yet another MCU carbon copy, just as I predicted.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
Overstuffed, formulaic, and lacking any sense of artistic integrity that would be required in order to get someone like me interested again. Still, if James Gunn could somehow find a way to change my mind and prove to me that he is doing something outside of the box that warrants yet another Superman reboot, then I would say so. Sadly, based on everything that I've seen and heard so far, it just looks like more of the same, only cheaper. Again, I was not impressed with the initial reveal of the suit because it felt very uneventful, and in my opinion, it did not paint this suit or the movie in general in the most positive light. James Gunn's goal should be to win everyone back who is currently having doubts. And instead, his first piece of official promotion for this film was about as lackluster gets.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So now we have these set photo leaks to react to. And let's be honest, set photos are never a good indication of what the final product will ultimately look like. We all know that these things are constantly touched up in post-production, especially when it comes to the reactionary filmmaking techniques that are typically applied when making modern comic book movies. So basically what I'm saying is, we still don't have a great sense of what this suit will look like in action. Basically par for the course when it comes to this film and the DCU overall. I feel like I'm constantly getting information that ultimately tells me nothing. But that hasn't stopped the internet from doing internet things, because the overreactions have been pouring in from both sides. If I could sum these reactions up in just one screenshot, it would be this. One person saying, quote, "The upgrade cannot be understated. Absolute peak. I'm thrilled." And for those who are asking, no, this is not a Reaction Joe burner account. On the flip side, we have, "That's one hideous suit." And no, this is not a Grifter Joe burner account. Needless to say, the reactions have been predictably polarizing. What's odd to me is that most of the reactions seem to be based around comparing this suit to suits of the past. Most notably, Henry Cavill's suit for obvious reasons.
You're pathetically predictable.
Now, I stated in my first video on this subject that the textured look of James Gunn's suit looks very reminiscent to the textured look on the Man of Steel suit, and I stand by that. But based on these set photos, to me, that's where the comparisons stop. And this is the problem every time we get a new incarnation of these iconic characters. Everyone is more concerned with comparing than they are judging each individual incarnation on their own merits. And to me, that's exactly what makes these conversations so exhausting and ridiculous. It's like when people are constantly saying things like, well, so-and-so is my Batman, as if we haven't had multiple actors in that role in different suits all turn out to be absolute bangers. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a favorite of the bunch. I understand that. But I've never been about tearing one thing down in order to build up this thing that I like.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
And that's where we currently find ourselves with James Gunn's Superman. We all know the circumstances in which he is making this movie and how he came to be the head of DC on film. And the reality of the situation is some people hate what happened and some people do not give a shit. And the people who do not give a shit just want more DC content and they don't care where it comes from. And this is why we get these extreme reactions to everything. In reality, when I first opened my X app this afternoon and I saw the set photos, I honestly didn't have much of a reaction at all. It's pretty much exactly what I would expect from a James Gunn-led Superman movie that is desperately trying to win over the Twitter crowd. All I'm saying is, I don't know why anyone is surprised. It's a pretty traditional looking suit with bright colors in an obvious attempt to please all of the people who had a problem with the muted colors on the Man of Steel suit. It has the underpants over the tights and the logo on the cape. The two things that some people deem to be so important to this character's success. It's like WB and James Gunn are intentionally playing into the divided fan base and exhausting discourse. They are practically begging people to compare this to the Henry Cavill suit. Because in their eyes, that's the best way to get people to talk about this movie on social media. It's a tactic that their counterpart, Disney, has used for years. Fuel the outrage and cater to the faceless accounts who will praise you no matter what. And yes, by the way, the suit still does look loose-fitting. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we know they probably did that to make it more comfortable for the actor while shooting. And once again, they will probably touch it all up in post-production.
Nothing is over! Nothing!
Bottom line for me, the suit is basically the very definition of mid. And to me, it's not really worth talking about to the extent that some people are. James Gunn's Superman film will be a safe adaptation in some aspects and not an interpretation. That is why they hired him. He's going to take what he learned at Marvel Studios and apply it here in all likelihood. He was hired to create something safe and familiar, and he will probably just add a little bit of cringe comedy to it. Now, if James Gunn is really carrying over some things from Disney, then it is entirely possible that this Superman suit will look as cheap as it does in these photos when we see it in the final product. Because poor costume design has been a thing for Disney projects for years now as well. And that's why, to me, it feels like James Gunn is taking the easiest way out approach, but only time will tell. In the end, the discourse around this suit ultimately means nothing. Social media hype and outrage pretty much means nothing. As of right now, I would say most of the general public do not even know that this movie exists. The trailer is going to be the moment that sways people one way or the other, and that will determine whether or not this movie will be a hit or not.
That makes sense.
All I know is that in that trailer, they better come with something better than what we've gotten so far. Because as of right now, I do not see all the reveals or James Gunn's transparency translating to legit hype. It feels more like whatever he is doing is being designed to be intentionally divisive. And that's a bold strategy when you take into consideration that most DC projects have failed to attract large audiences consistently. Proof that the more things change at WB and DC, unfortunately, the more they stay the same.
Y'all be cool. Right on.